Hello my lovely students, how are you all? Welcome back to your science class. So my dear students, this is the continuation of the video of chapter number 4, that is sorting material into groups. So my dear students, as we have completed our A part and B part in our previous video, so today we will do our C part, that is short answer questions, and D part, that is long answer questions, and we will complete this chapter today. So open your notebook students and watch the video and write the answer along with me. Right? Let's start. Let's start my students.
I hope student each one of you have opened page number 43 of your science book. So students, today we will do our C part and D part of our chapter sorting material into groups. So I want every one of you, please open your science notebooks along with your books. Watch the video carefully and pause the video and write the answer while watching the video. Right? So let's start. So what does question 1 says? So question number 1 is list 5 materials, and we have to tell that one thing that is made up of from each those materials. So the 5 materials and the things that are made up of as follows. Steel. So we know knives, utensils and cars are made up of steel. Wood. Chairs, tables, even our beds are made up of wood. Our almiras are wooden almiras. Right? Cotton. Clothes are made up of cotton. Leather. Shoes and belts are made up of leather. Paper, books, your notebooks, your science book, that is textbook, right? Those are made up of papers. Any written material and writing pads are made up of paper. Question number 2. What does question 2 says? Question 2 is what is matter? Give 2 examples of things that are matter and 2 that are not. So student, what is matter? Matter is that anything that occupies space and has mass is called matter. So the example of these are water and air are matter, and while feelings and sound are not matter. We also want to tell that we also want to tell in this question that those are not matter. So feelings and sounds are not matter. Moving further, question number 3. Question 3 says that in what ways is all matter alike? In what ways does all matters are alike? So all matter occupies space. We know that all matter occupies space, and the amount of space it occupies its volume, right? All matter has mass that can be measured using a weighing balance. Question number 4. What is the difference between an element and a compound? So student, again there is a question of difference. You have to mark a line in between and then you have to write like this. One side element, another side compound. So element is the smallest particle of an element, right, is called an atom, and a compound is the smallest particle of compound is a molecule. The smallest particle of compound is a molecule, and the smallest particle of an element is called an atom. So example of element are the smallest particle of iron is an atom of iron, and the smallest constituent of water is a water molecule composed of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. Right? Moving further, question number 5. What does question 5 says? What do you mean by texture? Now they ask us, what do you mean by texture? So student, texture is basically when we touch different types of materials. Each material feels different, right? Every material is different. Every one particular material is different from another particular material. So my dear student, this indicates the difference in texture of each material. The different feel of different materials to the touch is called a texture. Example, we can say wood and metal feel different on touching. Wood is different, metal is different, steel is different, right? So this is the example of, these are the example of texture. Moving further, question number 6. What does question 6 says? So question 6 is metals are lustrous, but an iron rod used in construction does not shine. Explain. So as we have seen in our video, so the same question is here, that metals are lustrous, they shine, but iron rod used in construction does not shine. What is the reason behind that? So the reason is that when iron comes into contact with air, when iron is come into contact with air and water, it rusts and surface loses its lustrous appearance. That becomes rust, student, right? As a result, an iron rod used in construction does not shine. If the iron rod is rubbed with sandpaper, then the layer of the rust is removed and it becomes lustrous again. If we rub, we have even seen we have watched in the video na, when we rub it with the any sandpaper, then it shine. So in the same way, when we rub the iron with sandpaper, its rustness removes and then it becomes lustrous, it shines, right? Moving further, question number 7, how can you make paper translucent? How can you make paper translucent? We have seen in the video how that boy make the paper translucent so that he can see in between the paper. How? So the reason is, one can make a paper translucent by spreading few drops of oil on it. So the part of paper sheet on which the oil is spread becomes translucent. Question number 8. There are only about 117 different kinds of atoms but millions of compounds. Explain. So we know that there are only 117 different kinds of atoms, but there is no number of compounds. There are millions of compounds. So what is the reason behind that? So is that true? First of all, we want to know that yes, this statement is true. Approximately 117 types of, they have used an approximately, maybe it can be 116 or 118, right? So elements of in periodic table, however, millions of compounds is there which are formed by the combination of these 117 different types of elements. So they mean to say is that there are 117 atoms, but compounds are made from these atoms. By the combination of these different atoms, we found, or what we get after combining 117 different kinds of atom with one another. So we get compounds, we get different types of elements. So now we move further to a long answer questions. So question number 1, question 1 is, what is classification, how is it useful? Now we have to tell that what do you mean by classifications, how is it useful? So the answer is, grouping of things with similar properties is called classification. So classification, student, is basically that when we group the things with similar properties, that is known as classification. We can classify different things based on whether they are living or non-living, metals or non-metals, right? It is also possible to classify objects based on their size, solubility in water, etc. Like by classifying things, objects, we can make our work easy. So for example, an alphabetic classification of books in the library makes it easy to retrieve a certain book needed. So this is how a classification is useful, right, student? Moving further, question number 2. What does question 2 says? Question 2 says that there can be several levels of classifications explained with the reference to classification of living things. Now the answer is, classification can be done on various different levels, right? Like living organism can be classified into plants and animals, right? Animals can be further classified into flowering and non-flowering plants on the basis of some other factors, and animals can also be classified into subcategories. We have Ratna already, herbivores, carnivores. So in the same way, they can also be classified in sub other categories, right, student? So yes, question number 3. Name the 3 states of matter. In what ways are they different from each other? So the 3 states of matter are solids, liquids and gases. These are the 3 states of matter, student. So now again there is a word different from each other. So that means we have to differentiate these 3 among each other. So we have drawn a line in between solids, liquid and gases. Now we can differentiate these 3, right? See, at solid, the atoms molecules of a solid are closely packed with each other, and the atoms molecule of a liquid are further apart as compared to the solid. But in the gases, the atoms molecule of gases are loosely held. So solids are closely packed, gases are loosely held or packed, or liquids are further apart, or they are further apart from each other, right? In solid, a solid has a definite shape, gases neither has any fixed shape, right? A liquid has a fixed shape, but it assumes the shape of the container. Like if we want to drink a water, student, we put water in a glass, so water takes the shape of a glass, or if we put the water in a jug, it takes the shape of a jug, right? So liquid does not have any fixed shape, it assumes the shape of the container or whatever in which we place it, right? Question number 4, how does sugar dissolves in water? So now whenever we make any kind of a scungemi or whatever we used to make at our homes, we put some water. If you want to make some scungemi, right, a lemon juice if you want to make, so we put some sugar and some salt and some lemon juice, right? So how does that water dissolve? So the reason is that when sugar is put into water, the water molecules break the sugar into individual molecules. These molecules of sugar are then dispersed throughout the water and are so small that they cannot be individually seen, right? So in such a state, the sugar is said to have a dissolved in water. Question number 5, define density. How is it related to floating and sinking of water? So the answer is density is defined as the mass per unit volume of a substance. A substance having a density greater than that of water will sink in it. For example, a piece of iron or aluminium, while a substance which is less dense than water will float in it. For example, wood, cork or a cotton, right? Question number 6. Now again there is a difference question. We have to differentiate between miscible and immiscible liquid, and we have to give one example of each. So miscible liquids are those liquids which mix with each other are called miscible. As the word mix, miscible we can the mix, right? Immiscible which do not mix with each other, those are immiscible. So example, milk, water, and immiscible example, coconut oil, water, and coconut oil and water are immiscible liquids, right? So moving further, question number 7. So again there is a difference question. Now we have to differentiate between transparent and opaque. So transparent objects are those, student, if light falling on an object can pass through it. If a light can pass through an object, it is termed as transparent, right? That means we can see the things from one side to another side. Like translucent, translucents are also those. Opaque, what are opaque? Opaque are those objects, student, in which light cannot pass from one side to another side, right? If there is an opaque wood, like I take an example of a wood, right? So can you see a thing from one wooden piece to another side? No, because we only see the wood, right? If I keep a glass in between me, right, or if there is some person standing standing near me, so I can totally see that person, right? So those are transparent objects, like a glass or a air. We can see the person transparently, right? At the opaque, we cannot see the person, right? If there is a wood in between or iron or aluminium in between, so we cannot see anything or any object, right? So moving further, examples are those glass and air. Examples of opaque are wood, iron or aluminium. So that's all, student. That's all for long questions. So with this we have completed our chapter, student. Thank you so much. If there is still any kind of a doubt, you can ask or call or message me anytime. Thank you very much.
I hope, student, each one of you have written the answer in your notebook. So student, click the picture and send it to me. So till then, take care, stay safe and stay home and stay healthy. Thank you, my dear students.